Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
Hi, I'm Jason Kelly.
I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And welcome to The Deal. Coming up today, Josh Richards. Alex, you're pretty influential. I would argue this guy is more influential. Millions and millions of followers on social media. He's going to talk to us all about how to build an audience.
It's incredible. I mean, you talk about not only is he more influential, he's probably like 7, 8 times more. This is how the new stars are going to look like. And I would not be surprised if NFL, MLB Baseball, NBA hires someone like Josh to help them understand what the audience wants. He knows it as well as anyone.
He's been incredibly aggressive as an entrepreneur and as a partner. He's partnered with Dave Portnoy. He's partnered with Mark Wahlberg. He, like you, has gone out and found incredible mentors. He's going to tell us how he is building an empire.
Can't wait.
All right, coming up, Josh Richards. All right, so introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Yeah, my name is Josh Richards, and I do social media, and I'm also an entrepreneur.
That undersells it quite a bit. grossly undersells it. You're highly influential. You know, we like to talk about signature deals on this show. A lot of people know you through your Barstool podcast. Let's start there because that is a deal that, at least for a lot of us, kind of comes out of nowhere. I think we have a little bit of knowledge of the backstory. You got to share that with us.
Yeah. So that really started when I had made a diss track on a past friend of mine on social media. So we were just playing fun, made this song, and it accumulated like 100 million streams across platforms, blew up, was trending on Twitter. And that was the first time Dave Portnoy had seen TikTokers on social media. So he tweets out and he goes, "Why are these wiggle showing up on my feed?" And so instantly, being a fan of Dave previously, like growing up, watching his content and watching Barstool, I was like, okay, I got to get into contact with this guy. Like, I know he'll like keep going with it if like I can get him on a live or do something. So we end up getting in contact with him. We go live on Instagram. We end up having, I want to say 90 to 100,000 concurrents watching this stream of me and Dave, because just like you guys said, it's like, this is out of nowhere. Why is Josh Richards and Dave Portnoy making content together? And we did that live. I explained all the drama to him, and me and him were going back and forth, cracking jokes. We were charismatic. We were able to flow with each other. We were able to go back and forth. And we started getting hit up by different companies about putting on a show. And Snapchat was one that reached out, and they were like, "Oh, would you and Dave want to do like a segmented show every single week?" So I get on a call with Dave. We have an hour call scheduled, I believe. We're about 2 minutes into this call, and I've pitched him, "Oh, Snapchat wants to do a show." And he's like, "All right, I don't want to do a show with Snapchat." We're like, "Okay." Well, we got 58 minutes left here, and the whole pitch of this call is already toast, right? So we kind of start just spitballing random ideas, and we're like, all right, I had a show at the time called T-Talk, where on my YouTube, I would go through all the drama that was online, and I'd kind of like poke light at it and make fun of it. So I thought, why not just kind of take what we did with the live stream and combine that with the T-Talk, and let's just make a podcast where we talk about all the drama going on in Gen Z and social media, and I'll explain it to you. And it'll be this really cool co-viewing opportunity where kids can watch with their parents, right? Kids are always trying to explain what's going on social media to their parents. Their parents aren't quite getting it. They get to watch Dave and be like, "I relate to that guy."
Yes.
And then people that are my age and younger get to watch me and Bree and be like, "Oh, well, I relate to them." So it created this really cool experience, and it made a lot of people say like, "What the why are these two together?" And I think that's a reaction that myself and my company have really looked at as, that means you're doing something right. When people are asking why, when people are starting to get intrigued, I mean, that means you're on the forefront of something really special, I think. So,
and you and Bree, remind us who Bree is and how you guys got together.
Yes, so Bree Chicken Fry, she is the other host of the podcast. And we had come across her. She was already an employee at Barstool. She had been doing her own podcast. And we had felt like me and Dave had a good dynamic, but there was something missing. We needed another point of view. We needed someone else that was going to kind of bring in an opposing side, because a lot of times me and Dave would agree with each other. So we cycled through a couple of the people at Barstool, trying out different talent, seeing who would work out. And when Bree came on, it just fit. I think having that female perspective is huge, especially because a lot of my audience is female. I think having someone that was quick and witty and was able to, you know, hang with us at the same time, she was really the perfect fit. And I think that's what truly made BFFs a really really, really good show is having all of us
4
together.
years in.
That's amazing. 4 years in.
Yeah.
Did you
yeah.
say her name is Brie Chicken Fry?
Yeah, so
That's a great name.
Yeah.
Makes me hungry.
She had liked the chicken fry snacks, so she had called her username Brianna Chicken Fry, and it's kind of just
There
stuck.
you go.
Yeah, it's stuck.
All right, so let's go back even further, because before you get to BFFs, as you mentioned, you're creating a highly successful YouTube channel. You're also building an empire from a pretty early age. Why?
Yeah. I've said this a little bit before, but I haven't touched on it a lot. Ever since I was really young, I had always had this like calling or feeling where I was like, I know the name Josh Richards will be known. And I used to pray about it before I would go to bed every single night. And, you know, when I was 3 or 4, I thought I was going to be a superhero. I thought I was going to be Ben 10, right? That same notion of like the name Josh Richards will be known never left me. It went from that to being, oh, I'm going to be a pro hockey player. I'm going to be an NHL player. And then, oh, I'm going to be a professional lacrosse player. And then, oh, I'm going to use my love for hockey and create a hockey shirt company, and I'll have the biggest apparel brand in hockey, and that will bring my name Josh Richards around. And it just kind of kept going and going and going until one day my sister had asked me to go in a video with her on this app called Musical.ly. And so she has this little like dance routine we're going to do, and I was like, okay, cool, let's do this. And I'm 13. I just finished my 8th grade of school, and she's 12. And so we do this little video, and to us, it blows up. Running around the house, we're yelling and screaming. It got like 50 likes, I think.
Okay.
But to us, that was viral.
Huge.
We were like, oh my goodness, we don't even know 50 people. So we go and I look at the comments, and there's like 2 or 3 of the comments that are like, hey, what's his username? And they're from girls. And I'm like, kind of feeling myself now. I'm like, all right, I got to make myself one of these accounts. So I make one, and very quickly, kind of go about it in an entrepreneurial spirit. I had started a couple different brands in my neighborhood. If that was like a lacrosse brand where I would string sticks and dye the mesh and wax coat it so it was waterproof, and when you were playing in the rain, your pocket consistency stayed the same. Or I had a hockey shirt company with different slogans where we'd go to tournaments. So right away I was like, oh, is there a way to make money off this? Like, how can I turn this into a business? And so me and my sister found the live component of the app where you could go live, and much like Twitch today, that's like one of the biggest platforms. You'll go live and people will subscribe or send donos. And not only were they able to do that on this platform when I was going live as well, but there was actually a list that showed you the top 200 spending customers every single day. So the people that were donating the most. So I was sitting there at 13 like, well, this is silly. Like, why do I need 10 million followers when I can have the top 200 spenders every single day? Just kind of go direct to consumer. So I had my sister bring out the iPad. She'd sit beside me, and I put on her 15% commission-based salary. And she'd sit beside me, and she'd go through that list of 200 people logged into my account, follow every single one of them, like 15 other videos. They'd get 16 notifications from a random Josh Richards kid. They'd see I'm live because my profile would be blinking. They'd be like, oh, all right, let me go check it out. They'd come into the live. I'd know it was one of them because their usernames were highlighted in red because I just followed them. So I would give them extra attention, be like, yo, what's up? What's up? They'd end up sending gifts, and me and my sister would be like, nice, got him. And so then we kept doing that, and we like did that in my parents' basement for a year or 2 years, just starting to make like really good money. And
Like, what's real money?
we were at probably after the first month, we were doing like $600 a week, being
Nice.
like 13 years old,
Oh
right?
my God.
So we're sitting there like, wow, we are raking it in. We're set for life. Like
Yeah.
we were blown away. And I remember my dad comes to me one day because all this money is going from the app through his PayPal into my bank account. So he's getting a notification every time. And, you know, it happens a couple times. I think it was probably the 3rd week we were doing it. And he comes up and he's like, all right, I get it. You're in high school, but drugs and selling drugs, that's just not the... And I'm like, Dad, no, that's not what it is. That's not what it is. So I have to explain him what social media is and going live. And he's like, all right, I'm not sure I really understand, but you're making great money, so keep it up, you know? And so then he started diving deep into social media, and I always credit my parents because I wouldn't be here without them. They were my biggest supporters through everything from the early companies I tried to do. They would, you know, buy the blank t-shirts and give me a 100-yard mesh spool for the lacrosse thing. And then as soon as I started doing social media, my dad and mom were both like, all right, we need to know everything we can about this. We need to learn as much as we can. Oh, I'll take a day off of work, Josh, to fly you to this event in Washington so that you can go and collab with other creators. And there were all these little things that, they didn't really have to do, but they were just the most supportive parents in the world and allowed me to follow this dream at a young age and go to the United States, go to different countries when I was younger and should be in school. Like they believed in me and believed in what I was doing. So really, really huge props to them.
How soon into that journey are you like, okay, I'm in it. This is going to be my life.
Mm-hmm.
I am devoting myself to this. I am following, candidly, a pretty well-trod path. Like, I'm moving to LA. Like, I'm doing it. Like, when did it sort of flip for you?
Yeah. After 2 years of being on social media is really when I think I decided, like, no, I could turn this into something full-time. I could really turn this into a media empire, build companies off of this and continue to grow in my own social as well. So after those 2 years, I started to make some friends in the social media world.
Mm-hmm.
We decided we were going to go on a tour. So we had gotten all together, had this person that was repping the tour and kind of managing it. And we did, I believe, 30 cities across the United States. And that was the moment I think I was first able to see it. I come from a small town, 15,000, 16,000 people, and everyone already knew me before I did social media. So there wasn't this like rise to fame I felt or anything like that in my town. If anything, it was the opposite because I was doing something different and new, right? It was more like, oh, look at this loser doing social media. So that was the first time I had ever seen faces to these people commenting and liking my content. And that's really when I was like, holy cow, there's really something here.
Yeah.
So we finished the tour. We end up in a pretty tough situation where us as kids, we hadn't signed anything. We had kind of done all these handshake deals with these people running the tour, and we all get screwed out of a bunch of money. The tour did really well for them. We were doing like 2,000 people sold out shows every single place we went. On top of that, we'd do dinners and VIP things and all these different things where people would select who their favorite fans or their favorite person to see was. So you were supposed to get that cut. And I think I got $700 by the end of it. Like, it was like, it didn't even cover the hotels. You know what I mean? Like, or the food that we had to go and get. So it was a tough situation, and it was a learning one that I'm glad happened early, because right then I was like, all right, this is the Wild West. Social media is new. No one's paying attention, like in the sense of protecting the creator. At this point, there's no WME, CAA. They're not coming to sign kids yet. They're not even like looking at what TikTok could be.
And this is only, what, 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah, this
right?
is 2019.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not that long ago, right? And that was the moment where I was like, okay, I need to start something that's going to be by the creator for the creator. So I started a management company. That's when I moved to LA. That's when me and all my friends start the Sway House. That's when I get looped in with Chris Sawtelle, who's my business partner now with Crosscheck. He was at ICM. We had to sign to an agency, our management company, because we didn't have a license.
Right.
So for them to be rep, like, we needed that. So we went and met with ICM. Chris had started the digital division over there. So that was the person we were put in contact with, and we worked out a deal with them, started working with them. Chris became also my manager at the time, or my agent. And then as time moves forward, I end up leaving Talent X, sell my shares there. And that's when I was like, all right, I want to make a production company. I want to start being able to bring together the worlds of social and traditional media, start bridging those as they are getting closer and closer together. And we all see our favorite actors and athletes now doing social media. And now we see social media influencers stepping into music and movies. And as these worlds are colliding, like, how can I be at the forefront of that and producing all that content? So started Crosscheck. Chris was sitting in his comfy job at ICM. And I was like, why don't you just listen to me, this 19-year-old kid, and leave your job and come and work with me, and we'll start Crosscheck together. So after a few months of, continuously knocking on Chris's door and asking him, I convinced him. And so he listened to me, came over, and then we started Crosscheck, and we've been doing that for the last 3 years now.
When it comes to like two middle-aged dudes like Jason and I, right? What content can we learn from you that actually performs the best, and which content performs the worst?
I mean, content that performs the best versus worst, I think that's very dependent on the creator and on the person that's creating the content, right? Because you already have a built-in audience. You know your audience. You've been from the world of sports. You know, anytime you're going to be talking about sports, that's going to play to your audience, right? So I think more about like knowing what content's going to do bad or knowing what content's going to do good It's about knowing your audience, because that's going to lead you to the right path. So I know, for example, my audience and my demographic, if I go on my TikTok, it's going to be 75% women, 25% men, right? And I also know that the age demo there is going to really range from 16 to probably 24 is really where my age demo sits. So I go and think, okay, what are people in that age group going to like? What content is going to be fun for them? Okay, what's something relatable that we're all doing? All right, everyone's dating at that age, right? So how do I bring in a really funny conversation or debate that me and my girlfriend are going through, and I bring that to TikTok and we're able to share it, and now all these kids that are 16 to 24 are sending it to their boyfriends or sending it to their girlfriends, and they're like, we literally had the exact same argument. Oh my God, this is so crazy. My favorite creator's going. That is, to me, what builds good content. When you're able to show to your audience that, you know, you're going through the same things they're going through, you're able to play that relatable card with them. That not only is going to make good content, but continue your building community.
You know, one of the things you have been so successful at, and you've demonstrated it even in the past few minutes, is identifying and cultivating an audience. So, you know, you've talked about sort of the creator side. How do you essentially make a business out of those insights? Because it feels like, I mean, if we're looking at your business ventures, that's your, I mean, this is an overused term, that's your superpower, is understanding the audience. You're clearly an entrepreneur as well. So how do you build something that leverages those insights?
Yeah. I mean, today, every company is trying to find a way to communicate with Gen Z. How can I help a company by investing? Or if I really enjoy this brand and I want to be a part of it, how can I leverage myself, who knows how to communicate to Gen Z, who knows what they're interested in, knows what their likes and dislikes are? How can I leverage that for this company? So I think that's really how I look at like my following, and I'm able to turn it into a business, because the cable TV commercials, they're not where these companies are wanting to go anymore. They're wanting to go to social. How can we bring our stuff to TikTok? Unless it's like a Super Bowl commercial, it makes way more sense to go on social. So I think it's just about leveraging my knowledge and my ability of knowing how to grow on social media and knowing how to bring those companies and their products to a younger audience.
So, Josh, when you think about you and your partner, Chris, when you think about engaging businesses, are you guys sitting back on your heels and waiting for these great companies to reach out to you? Or do you proactively go out and engage with them?
Yeah.
And how do you do it?
Yeah, no, we're very proactive. One of the first things I learned from coming out to LA was how often agencies and agents are in the get called business instead of making calls, right? They kind of sit there and they kind of wait around, and if one of their 10, 15 clients is someone that's getting a lot of inbound and people are all, they're like, perfect, I can do this. I can answer the phone all day and say, yeah, sure, we'll take your money. Like me and Chris will have these weekly meetings where we talk to each other, and I'm telling him about different brands I'm enjoying right now, or different campaigns I see brands doing that I'm really interested in, or, oh, I see this company kind of rising. Maybe there's an investment play or equity play there. And we talk about that, and then we'll go out and reach out to the company. This, I think, shows the company, okay, this is an authentic relationship. This is the creator who is actually reaching out to us. They really must enjoy our brand. This is something they want more than just, oh, we're going to offer them a paycheck and they want the money.
Yeah.
So for us being proactive, it gives us more ability to do what we want with the campaign, because we're usually able to not only come with them with, hey, we're really interested in working with you guys, but here's 3 different tiers of what the deal could look like. Here's, you know, that tier 1, that's going to cost a little bit more, but look at all these really cool different videos we can do, or high production valued stuff we can do, like we did with Fallout, where we made a whole trailer and people were like, holy, is Josh in the Fallout show coming out on Prime Video?
Right.
So then, like, you can have these different tier things, and that allows us to feel like we get more of that creative control, which my audience is going to enjoy that more. It doesn't feel like a billboard. They watch that ad and they actually consume it and they enjoy it. They're like, this is how ads should be done. This is instead of okay, here's another brand post, right?
Right.
So,
and Josh, is that through like social media, text, email? Or do you and Chris try to set up a Zoom or a meeting in person?
Yeah, so it typically starts off with an email. I think people really undervalue the cold email. That's what I did even when I was like 17, 18, just to meet people. It was, hey, I'm really interested in just getting to pick your ear for 30 minutes. Would you like to hop on a call? And that's how I was able to make a lot of connections in the venture world. And that's how I was able to meet people like Mark Wahlberg when we started the production company, who helped a ton. Like, I think the cold email is so valuable. So we'll start off typically with that.
So what do you say in that email?
Yeah, I mean, it varies depending on, you know, who I'm talking to, but...
so Mark Wahlberg,
yeah,
what do you say to Mark Wahlberg?
I mean, for Mark, I looked up to him when I was younger. I had always looked at him as somebody that was able to transition from career to career really, really seamlessly and well. You know, starts off and he's Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, right? And I'd always thought like that is pretty similar to the social media creator or the person that makes it's like a one-hit wonder kind of vibe today. You never know how long that lifespan's going to be. If they don't keep making really good content, they're going to disappear, right? The same way like musicians back then, they make one good song, couple good songs. If that was it, then they like fell off and no one really heard from them again. So he was able to transition and then go into acting and start doing his acting. And then he, you know, becomes an entrepreneur and is opening up different companies. It's like he might have done the steps in a different way, but I always had looked at that and been like, oh, that's really inspiring. I kind of want to follow those footsteps. So I pretty much said that in the email, right? I looked up to you. I've seen how you've had an ability to transition from career to career. I'm someone that really aspires to do that and wants my career to kind of follow in your footsteps. And I'm starting this production company, so I would love to be able to pick your ear on just advice and how I can navigate Hollywood. So I sent that email. It ended up getting received by the head of his production company, Archie Gibbs. Got on the phone with him, talked with him for a while. He was like, you really do remind me of Mark. Let me get you in contact with Mark. And then I got in contact with Mark, and that's when we started the joint venture for the production company. So that's where my production company was for the first year with his unscripted company. And he was able to, you know, do the whole parade me around Hollywood and be able to introduce me to certain people. And that really helped kind of get us going at the beginning and allowed me to sit in rooms as a 19, 18-year-old and have people take me seriously because Mark had said, no, I trust him.
When you're approaching different deals, whether it's a brand, whether it's a company, you've hit on something that Alex talks about a lot and we've talked about a lot on this show, which is moving from sort of asset to principal. And a lot of what is embedded in that is getting a stake, getting equity. How much do you think about sort of the ownership piece? Because clearly the entrepreneurial side of you wants to be an owner, it sounds like. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm always thinking about that. If that's from when I'm working with a brand or a company, or even when I'm creating my own IP as content, because you're building a library, right? And that can then go and sell one day. I mean, I think it's something I always think about, especially because I always want to be able to be a part of the present and the future and keep my finger on that pulse. And I think there's no better way than investing in a company that's going to be massive in the next 5 to 7 years, right? That allows me in 5 to 7 years to still be a part of the conversation. So for me, it's something that's really important. It's something that has been given to me as advice when talking to people like Ashton Kutcher. And he said, you know, if I had taken equity in every single one of the deals that I had done for commercials when I was younger, instead of the paycheck, even if I cut the paycheck in half and took it as equity instead, I would be 100x richer than I am today. So there's just been a lot of people that, you know, from me doing those calls and cold emails, like that's the lessons that have been taught to me. And those people have been through it. And I always like to pride myself on knowing what I know and knowing what I don't. So I'm going to listen to the people that do know it and hopefully make the right decisions.
I mean, it's interesting too. I mean, just to prod you a little bit, there are a lot, I mean, you talk about the echoes and the similarities with Mark Wahlberg, and you said it earlier, Josh, there are a lot of similarities between what's happened with athletes and what's happened with creators. Don't you think? I mean, this whole notion of not just endorsing a brand, but being, I mean, this is something you've talked about a lot also from your early days as a player.
Yeah, and look, I think that the real power is in the talent, right? And I think we've seen this in college sports. We've seen this in entrepreneurship, where at one point, probably Mark Wahlberg and I started, a talent was just a talent. You get a fee and you stay in your corner. Today, the pendulum is shifting in NIL, with the actual players and the students have more power than the NCAA. I guess for me, you know, I entered the big leagues at 18 years old, and I was an all-star at 19 years old. So by nature, the power came to me because I was able to make an impact. And I think the same is, for you guys. Companies, whether it's Armani, New Balance, whoever you work with, they want you to bring, enterprise value to them, revenue, eyeballs, and you're doing that as well as anybody. Do you see that as well?
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. I think that's what they look at when they're deciding who they want to align with. Who do we want to have back our brand? Who do we want to have be the modern day? You don't put the brand logo up on a billboard anymore. You can stick it on someone's back and they can go walk around and wear it, right? So I think that's exactly what they're looking at.
All right, so Josh, if you were a part owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Lynx, 2 or 3 things that you would be thinking about to position those brands ahead of the rest of the other teams?
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that I've noticed a couple teams step in and really start focusing on is, their social play. And I think that does build a massive community. Like I'm a big Buffalo Bills fan, and I think they are one of the teams that I've noticed through sports that are doing an incredible job from their social side. Like when you look at their TikTok, when you look at the videos they're posting and how much they're posting, their social team is in on every single trend that's going on as soon as it's happening, and they're getting their players to get involved in it every single week when they're in practice and coming off of practice or going in to start. Like they're always getting these really cool clips, and I think that does, going back to like building community, it does really get the fan to get to know more about the their favorite quarterback, Josh Allen, or to get to know more about the new wide receiver coming into the team, Keon Coleman. It's the same thing we've almost seen with the people getting obsessed with watching the Hard Knocks stuff, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh well, they're one of my new favorite teams now just because they've just gotten this Hard Knocks. And you really get to see how much these guys are putting into this. It's not just, oh, we're going out and we're playing a fun sport today. This is their lives, and they are putting every single ounce of like blood, sweat, and tears into it every single day. And you get to start to have that same feeling like transcend through you by watching the content. So for me, I think social obviously is a massive play to get the fans just to ride even more and more for your team. But I mean, with Minnesota, you got some new guys coming in this year. So getting to film that dynamic and how you guys are building off of, a great year last year, Anthony Edwards absolutely balling out in the playoffs, like getting to film this journey as this new team comes together with a huge trade. To me, that's something I would really want to watch, and I think separates, like there's not people doing their own videos of these big trades and how this new dynamic is coming into work together and how these two superstars are going to blend and mesh. Like that's something as a fan of just sports, I'd want to see all the time and I would consume.
So let's stick with sports if we can, because, one of the things, you're clearly a passionate fan. It is fascinating, just as an aside, that the Buffalo Bills, with all apologies to Bills Mafia, is the most forward thing. When you think Buffalo, you don't always think
not
that, right?
Necessarily the way you would think.
Yeah,
but yeah,
fascinating. No. But as you look across the sports world, like from a league or from a sports perspective, like who understands their audience the best? I mean, you've done some work with the NHL, I know. Like, who is sort of getting it out there?
I do think that NFL is probably at the top, I would say. I think the NBA is doing really cool things as well. Like, I think a lot of people were quick to hate on like the play-in tournament, but I think it gave us incredible basketball.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that the NFL has done a good job of not only knowing their audience, but knowing how to expand their audience as well. And even the stuff with, Taylor Swift, like them playing into that. There was a lot of people at the beginning that were like kind of getting mad about it. But when you look at the growth and how many, guys' girlfriends now aren't just, oh, I cheer for the Kansas City Chiefs because of Taylor Swift. They actually have become fans of the game. It's done something that wouldn't have happened if they didn't start showing Taylor Swift at those games, right? Like that type of community wouldn't have been as big into football if that didn't happen. So I think they saw that and they ran with it, and that was a really smart play. I don't know if I necessarily call this the league doing it. I think Caitlin Clark is doing it for the WNBA and being like the biggest talked about athlete this past year and bringing such a massive audience. Me personally, I had never watched WNBA really before I watched Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. And I had watched, girls college March Madness a bunch, but I'd never been into the WNBA. And she and Angel Reese had come together, and they have absolutely blown that thing up. So for me, I think, those are the three leagues that I look at that like get their fans. I think the NHL has a long way to go.
Yeah.
I think that, they still in a lot of ways are an old or like elder statesman kind of ran league, and they don't think about changing it, and they kind of want to stay traditional, it seems. So for me, I think they're one that I would love to see start to make some changes, because I love hockey, and that is a sport that I want to have grow. And I know it's a hard barrier to entry because it's expensive to get the equipment and the ice, and there's things that you need to pay for that's harder than, basketball. You can just go get a ball and play in a park. So they got to make the barrier to entry easier.
So, Josh, I want to shift a little bit and talk about your investment thesis, because, you started a venture capital firm, I believe. What's the idea behind it? I mean, clearly from the beginning, you talked about even the tour that you went on, sort of gathering these, like-minded creators around you to help sort of create sort of a super friends model. Talk to us about investments. How do you suss them out? How do they come to you? What's the process?
Yeah. So for me, when I'm looking at a company or I'm looking to invest, I think there's a couple things I go down. First, it's always looking at the founder, right? Like, what is their history? What have they done before? Because if I believe in a founder, then I'm going to invest in them, right? More than the company. A great founder is going to find a way to make it work. If that's pivoting their company, if that's, figuring out how do they go from here to doing something else. Like, I, a lot of the time, love to invest in the founder themselves. Past that, it's looking at how can I, Josh Richards as a talent, or Josh Richards as, the owner of CrossCheck, like, how can I actually help this company? What am I going to be able to provide? How am I going to be able to boost them? So a little bit to what we were talking about earlier is, are they somebody that needs to get into the conversation with Gen Z? Is that an audience that they want to acquire? Well, I'm somebody that has grown an audience of 40 million plus online. So I know how to do that. I can help them with acquiring that audience, with getting to Gen Z. So for me, I think those are like the two things that I look at most when investing is, what am I going to be able to provide to them to be a good partner?
Yeah.
And then as a founder themselves, how much do I truly believe in that founder? Because I love being able to invest in the founder more than the company a lot of the time.
So, Josh, I'm sure one of the challenges and part of the gift and curse of being so young, as you think about raising capital, outside capital, limited partners, whether it's institutional or family offices, walk us through, if Jason is a founder of a company and you like it and you want to make a big bet or a medium-sized bet, are you thinking about it from your balance sheet? Are you thinking about it from investors? And how do you think about raising capital?
So when we raised capital for Animal Capital, we really were trying to make a splash in the space with the people that were attached to it, right? So the people that we were bringing in, it was all about, when we're going to go to a company and we're talking about investing, look at all the people that are also under this list that are willing to also, help in some ways. So for us...
And remind us who those people are.
Yeah. So for us, it was, getting people in like Thomas Tull, who absolute killer, getting in people like the Winklevoss twins, getting in people like Mark Wahlberg, getting in those people that have leverage and have built-in audience as well. And plethora of different spaces, right? Like, those people are all coming from different areas of entertainment and this industry. So we're able to get advice from many different lanes and people that have dealt with different companies before in different lanes. So that's kind of like how we were going to raise. We were going to have the max amount of partners we could and really try to make a splash. This was also something that I was doing at a young age, and I wanted people to be able to look past the fact that I was just, 19, 20 years old when I was starting this. So then going to, make this bet, I'm always looking at it as other people's money. This isn't something where I can go and have fun. It's not gambling. I'm not out here like playing with my own money. It's a very serious responsibility when you're, investing other people's money. And I always hold it in that facet, in that light. I always think about it that way, because I want to be able to go and raise fund too, and have all those people want to come back in and invest again when we go and raise, 30. So it's yeah.
And Josh, you talked about founders and the key of it. I always refer it to invest in the jockey, not the horse. So what are some of those qualities that you're looking for specifically that you turn to Chris and say, you know what, we have to back this guy, Jason. He's really got it. What do those things look like?
One that's always the easiest is like looking at the person's like track record, right? Being able to see things that they've done in the past. Is this their second or third time doing something? What have their other companies looked like? And then it's also the team around them and how the team, I think, acts with that founder. Like, I like being able to see how the team around the founder, it feels. How are they like on the call? When I'm having a meeting with all of them, are they people that seem like they want to ride and die for this founder? Like, is this a place where people are going to, you know, go to the trenches for each other? Or is it a place that you can see, man, you guys are like just holding together here? You know what I mean? Like one small little separation or one off-put comment and this whole thing can come crumbling down, right? So I think it's really important to go and look past not only how the founder cares about, you know, business or when they're looking at, you know, what school did they go to or anything, but how are they interacting with the employees and their partners and the people that they're working with? Because the last thing you want is to invest into a company that ends up having a partner feud, and you don't want to be in that. So I think that's really important to me. But yeah, I think those are the ones that I feel like I find myself looking at the most when I'm in those meetings.
And so, you know, as we look at the media landscape, obviously we've talked a lot about social media. You said earlier something I think really important, which is you're trying to bridge all of the media together. You've done some work with Amazon. How does that come about? And what is it about Amazon that appealed to you, and how does that work?
I think Amazon mission is quite similar to mine with what they're doing with Prime Video, bringing in Thursday night football and the unscripted and scripted content that they're bringing into Prime Video. So for me, I'm able to go to a home that has the same mission, and I feel like, okay, we're both now working together in a better fashion to both complete our goals. I'm able to go to Amazon and I'm able to get plugged in with athletes, and I'm able to get plugged in with the NFL, and I'm able to do those things that I want to do on the sports side. But then as well, I'm able to bring in my scripted content. I'm able to bring in my unscripted content to a home where they're able to kind of take everything I have. So for me, it was a perfect relationship.
Yeah. So given that we're sitting here, you know, with a guy who used to play baseball, you obviously have a lot of insights into the sports world. Like, who were the present company excluded because he doesn't need the attention? I mean, who are the athletes you pay attention to in terms of their social following, in terms of, you know, their sophistication when it comes to building an audience?
Yeah. I think Jalen Brunson's done a good job with his podcast. I think them opening that up and believing in it after a rough start, like they opened that podcast and they went 0-4 right after. Their team lost the next 4 games right after doing that podcast. So people were on them pretty heavy, like, don't do this anymore, stop the podcast, like this isn't working. And it was just one of those like unfortunate coincidences, I think, where, you know, they're doing the podcast and they start to lose. So then, you know, fans aren't going to be happy about that. They're like, oh, what? You're not able to practice because you're doing the podcast, when in all reality,
Knicks fans are super patient. Everybody knows that. They just like, they're
the most
chill.
Laid
super
back fans.
chill.
So they got a tough go at the beginning, but they kept with it. And I think it's a really enjoyable watch. And I do like what they're doing with that. Paul Rabel is somebody that has done a great job, who isn't obviously playing right now, but a former lacrosse athlete that's been able to pivot and build an entire empire. And he has his stuff with the PLL. He's working on a movie right now. Like the things he's been able to pivot towards and do, I've always found really impressive and respect, and grew up watching him and calling him the $1 million man, the first guy to make $1 million from lacrosse. Like that was always a huge thing for us as kids when we wanted to go and become professional lacrosse players, because it was like, oh my gosh, he was able to do it and he didn't need to also go be a teacher or do something else as well. This is crazy. So I think those are a couple guys that I look at a lot. I'm hoping to see more and more in the NHL of guys starting to come out. Like I did a video with Mitch Marner and a couple other guys. Dion Dawkins was one of them, and then a cross player as well. And when we did that video, it was great to see like Mitch Marner just being himself on camera and joking around and having that. And like, you don't get to see that from NHL guys ever.
Right.
Like McDavid doesn't even have a social media, right? And he's like the number one guy in the league. So that becomes a massive problem for a league when like your best players don't even care to post ever, right? So for me, I want to see Austin Matthews giving his take on situations in the NHL. I want to see those guys getting to talk more. Like for me, that would be awesome.
Well, because it's interesting, you know, your point earlier about the NFL sort of coming on strong. The NBA was on that corner for a long time. You know, I mean, you saw, you know, it was such a player-driven league, and the NFL, as it often does, is like, okay, we got this now. I mean, and you really have seen just a really concerted effort on the parts of teams and the parts of players to just get out there more. It's fascinating that it's happening.
100%. Even from like them having like the post-game interviews.
Yeah.
Like the way they joke around in the post-game interviews and they have fun sometimes in them, you know, like that's something that I see in the NBA and I see in the NFL that I don't see in the NHL whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like guys are up there and they might have just had the best performance of all time and scored like 4 goals and had 2 assists. And they'll be like, so like talk about it. And the guy will be like, yeah, no, I just coaches in the team, man. That's really why I was able to do that
Doing
tonight.
it for the boys.
And it's like, no, dude, you did it. You had 4 goals and 2 assists. You did everything tonight.
Yeah.
Like have a little like, yeah, no, I'm that guy. Like people want to see that a little bit, right? And that's just not how you're taught to play hockey. Like dressing rooms from when you're 3 years old, it's always like, no, it's the team. It's the team. It's the team. There's no
By the way, that sounds exactly like Major League Baseball.
It's so similar to baseball.
I mean, I remember Josh as a rookie, like I couldn't even go back to the back of the plane to use the restroom. And you're supposed to get there early, face in the locker room. If you know, Goose Gossage was awesome, but he was like twice my age. I was 18, he was 44. I was so scared of him.
Yeah.
Right? And yes, sir. Yes. And then you look back and you know, things are starting to change, but I agree with you. I mean, NFL, NBA, they're a lot more pop culture and they're like, yeah, I'm that guy.
Yeah.
We would never be able to say that in baseball.
No.
I do have a question about, because Jason's mentioned a few times the Josh Richards empire. And I'm always fascinated by entrepreneurs' vision. So if you think about your vision for the next 7 to 10 years, I'm trying to think about what is a great example. Are you thinking about your empire that looks a little bit like Ryan Seacrest with a blend of Mark Wahlberg with a splash of Sequoia Capital? Like, tell us what the vision looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I think you did a pretty good job there. And that sounds like a pretty great next 5 to 7 years.
You just create a vision board for him. That's great.
For me. But no, I think, I've always looked at it as, I think Mark Wahlberg is the example that I've used a lot. Just his ability to be in so many different fields, I think, to me is something I always have enjoyed. I've never been somebody that just wants to kind of, you know, stick to one thing and do that one thing and that be it. So I really hope in the next 5 to 7, we're able to grow at CrossCheck and be at the forefront of creating content for Gen Z and scripted and unscripted. I really hope to continue getting to not only be a part of content, but get more and more into acting and scripted content myself and being in front of the camera. So I think Mark, for me, is definitely that, I guess, goal or kind of, you know, path that I would really like to go down.
You know who I see a lot of? Ryan Reynolds.
That's a good one.
I will take that every single day.
Especially because like when you talk to Ryan, I mean, he does such an amazing job of talking about essentially like putting it on his back, right? I mean, with Deadpool being the example, right? I mean, that's a movie that was essentially, as he tells it, kind of left for dead. You know?
I mean, do you know that he leaked the first trailer piece? That was him.
And was that smart?
I was so smart.
It was
that's
the
what
smartest.
got it. Yeah, that's what really got it done is like they had this little test shoot they had done and it somehow got leaked and no one knows. And like Ryan was able to leak it and it got so much fan attention that they were like, we have to do this.
Right.
We have to. And that was him believing in himself and taking a risk. And then look how it paid off, right?
And I believe the next part of that story is they shoot the movie and then he literally walks off the set in the suit and takes the suit home because he knows they're not going to market it the way that he wants it to be marketed. And he does all these like guerrilla videos that then markets the movie. I mean, it's also this idea of working with brands in an authentic way, because that's what Maximum Effort has done so much of. And when I hear you talk about what you and Chris are doing, that sort of approach seems very, so, you know, you're going to be a team owner.
Yeah.
You're going to have $1 billion movie franchises.
Yeah.
Dude,
so it's going to be great.
We're going to end this as we do with a rapid fire, so we'll bounce it back and forth. What's one word to describe your deal-making style?
Proactive.
What's more important, your instincts or data?
Instincts.
Who's your dream deal-making partner?
I'm going to go Ryan Reynolds.
Ah,
Yeah.
Nice. What's the best piece of advice you ever received on deal making or business?
Can I give two answers to this?
Sure.
I think one being the invest in the founder and not necessarily the product. And then two, when you're creating a company or you're going to be investing or you're dealing with someone that's going to be a long-term partner and you're making that decision on who that partner is going to be, I think it's really, really important to know that's going to be someone that you can go to the trenches with.
Yeah.
That you wake up in the morning and you're really excited to get to work with this person, because if not, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to feel great. It's going to be such a tedious thing and you're never going to be able to put forth your best effort.
What's the worst advice you've ever been given?
There were people on the business side that had told me I should step away from content and focus more on the entrepreneurial side. And I think that's probably the silliest thing that has ever been said to me.
What is your hype song before a big meeting or negotiation?
Ooh. The song I was listening to on the way here was Sunday Morning by Maroon 5. So I'll go with that.
All right.
You can only watch one sport for the rest of your life. Which one is it?
Gosh, this is so hard.
Test to your Canadian roots.
I know. And if it was live, I go hockey.
Yeah.
And it's not even close. If it's live, it's hockey and it's not even close.
And on TV?
TV, football.
Okay.
Yeah.
What team do you want to see win a championship more than any?
Maple Leafs. Maple Leafs so badly. Please, just in my lifetime, make it past the
It
first
better be a
round.
loud prayer.
Please.
One fun fact about you that some of your colleagues would be surprised that you have.
I did dance growing up. I don't think people would expect that because I'm a terrible dancer. But I did do hip hop dance for like a year growing up.
Do you want to show us a little?
I don't think I
seconds on
have it anymore. I think I could just do the worm when I was younger. So I thought I was going to be a really good dancer, and it did not translate whatsoever. So,
All right. Well, this has been really fun. Thank you for doing this.
no, thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
The Deal is a production from Bloomberg Podcasts and Bloomberg Originals. The Deal is hosted by Alex Rodriguez and Jason Kelly. Our producers are Anna Mazarakis, Stacey Wong, and Lizzie Phillip. Original music and engineering by Blake Maples. Our managing editor is David E. Ravella. Our executive producers are Jason Kelly, Brendan Francis Newnham, Jordan Opplinger, Trey Shallowhorn, Kyle Kramer, Andrew Barden, Kelly LaFerriere, and Ashley Honig. Sage Bauman is our head of podcasts. Additional support from Rachel Carnevale and Elena Sausangelis. Joshua DeVoe is our director of photography. Rubab Shakir is our creative director. Art direction is from Jacqueline Kessler. Casting by Julia Manns. Our associate producer is Natasha Abelard. Camera operation by Stephen Neal and Linnea Jolson. Our associate producer is Natasha Abelard. Our gaffer is Kelly Porterfield, and our grip is Justin Birch. Alex Diakonis is our video editor. Listen to The Deal on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also tune in to the video companion on Bloomberg Originals and on Bloomberg TV. Thanks for listening.